Good Easter morning to you. I am the Reverend Sally White. I grew up in this church. My parents, Norman and Ishbel Shore, and my brothers Brian and Scott and I first came to East Shore in 1960. Since 2003, I have served as parish minister with the Unitarian Coastal Fellowship in Morehead City, North Carolina, on the southern Outer Banks. I am honored to be here on video this morning, and I thank Reverend Denis and all of you for inviting me to be part of your Easter Sunday. In recent days, I've been calling to check in with members and friends of the congregation I serve, and with old friends and relatives far and near. In our conversations, I've noticed that many people are spending time working in their gardens. It's a good way to get outside when you can't leave home. And the recent run of warm, sunny, breezy days we've had here makes it hard to resist going out for a few minutes or for a few hours. It may be that everybody I've talked with always plants a garden. And this is certainly the time to give your garden some attention. Maybe I've just never asked before, or maybe I haven't really listened. But I have heard so many gardening stories that I turned to the internet, handy source of all wisdom, to see whether more people are gardening in these days of enforced staying at home. And there it was in the New York Times. Panic buying comes for the seeds, wrote Kendra Pierre-Louis in the Style section on Saturday, March 28th. Her piece, subtitled, "I'm clearly not the only one who is desperate to garden," describes her recent decision to start a garden. She wrote, "I knew firsthand how calming gardening can be, especially when you're not dependent on the food for your immediate survival. Time slows down a little," she wrote. "Thoughts meander, and a feeling of flow can arrive even when the land you're cultivating is a tiny patch in earshot of a bus stop." But it turns out seeds are not so easy to find these days. She quoted Mike Dunton, the founder of the Victory Seed Company, a small seed company focused on horticultural biodiversity. He emailed her because he was too busy filling orders to come to the phone, and he said, "It feels like we are selling toilet paper." And then I found another article in the same section. "America stress bought all the baby chickens," wrote Tova Danovich. Turns out you can't get baby chicks either. Lines form outside Tractor Supply Company stores on the mornings of chick delivery. One hatchery in Iowa is almost completely out of chicks for the next 4 weeks. People are panic buying chickens like they did toilet paper, said Tom Watkins, the vice president of the hatchery. History tells us that there's a run on chicks and on seeds in times of crisis or anxiety. Wars, stock market downturns, presidential election years, and apparently pandemics. On one hand, a backyard garden or a backyard flock of laying hens feels like some insurance when the food supply or the supply chain seems uncertain. And, two, these can be homegrown science projects for students suddenly learning at home and for their parents. But I think seeds and baby chicks also call to us on another, deeper level. Germinating seedlings, forming flowers, developing fruits, cheeping babies growing larger by the day, these are affirmations of life and of hope in a time when the threat of disease and the specter of death lurk at the edges of every day. Perhaps this explains the lilies, the bunnies, the baby chicks of Easter, that festival of life that transcends death, of hope that transcends despair, of spring that always, always transcends winter. Tending the garden, caring for the chicks, these speak to a need in us to nurture life, to be needed. They get us up out of bed in the morning. They make each new day a time of discovery. And weaving living, growing things into our lives reminds us that we ourselves are inextricably woven into that interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. In hard times and in good times, in sickness and in health, in springtime and at Eastertide. May you be well. Happy Easter.